Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome back to another episode of A Great Conversation here on Nerds and Suits. Today you are going to be watching an interview with Mara Knopic, none other than the former Inner Geekdom champion in the movie trivia Schmoedown herself. Mara is a wonderful person, somebody who served in the Navy, somebody who is very, very, very adept at pointing out the finest moments in horror films, and somebody who at this point, based on obviously my relationship to Mara and Dan, I can just call my friend, which is really, really cool. It's taken a few years to get to know Mara, but she is just wonderful. She has an incredible number of weird and funny and interesting and sort of esoteric skills that you guys are going to see her actually talk about and in some cases exhibit on this show. Stay tuned. It's a great episode. I really, really appreciate all of you guys tuning in and showing up today. A big time thank you to all of my Infinity patrons. That is John Patterson, Lucas Shawshak, and Nicole Kravik. A big time thank you to all of you guys. And of course, stay tuned at the end of the episode for every single Platinum, Diamond, Double Diamond, and Infinity member to see your name in the credits and of course hear your name as well. Thank you guys so much for watching the episode and enjoy this very entertaining interview with none other than Mara Knopic. So do you get like fully invested in Dan's whole process, his preparation, his wins, his losses? Like, do you feel because you're in that space it affects you like heavily, greatly?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think even before I started playing, I would, quiz him and help him, and we'd watch all the movies together and try to talk strategy and whatnot. I used to be really good at Stratego, so clearly I know all about strategy.
I
and
love
just
Stratego so
even
much.
really, oh, we have to
It's
play
like one of my
sometime.
favorites. It's the best.
I've never met anyone else normal that wasn't in the Navy that ever played Stratego, so thank you for that.
It was. I mean, I know I'm cutting off the story. You were telling me like the Schmoedown
No, it's
stuff that the
fine.
fans right now are going to be like, shut up, Ben, stop talking about Stratego. But like, I'm just as excited as you are. In high school, I used to have like a buddy. We would get together once a week, and we'd play one-on-one games of Stratego, and I would put on like a mix of like the most intense orchestral scores from war movies. So we'd sit there
Ooh.
for 20 minutes silently, like listening to like Hans Zimmer scores, like setting up our pieces. It was so
Ooh.
over the top and ridiculous, but it was so much fun.
I feel like you should reenact that, maybe for I know you were a skosh younger than me, so you've already had your 10-year reunion, right?
Yeah, like I went to a weird high school. He and I, we just like, we stay in touch. It'll 100% happen again. There's no doubt about it. It'll be something
20-year
we do till we're
reunion,
old.
just start planning now.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I cut you off though, Stratego. So yeah, you feel like you're into strategy, helping Dan out, all that stuff.
Yeah, and even just from a partner standpoint, when he's emotionally invested in something, I'm going to be emotionally invested in it too. But now, having been a player and being ready once I'm in a better place health wise to make a triumphant return, that it's even more impactful now because I understand the machinations and the behind the scenes aspects of the coordination in the gameplay, and especially watching Tom as a manager even before the idea of factions. I think he really pioneered that kind of a relationship. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm very excited about his matches. I know this will probably be after that, so I don't know what will happen, but I'm
No, this is going to air
hoping.
tomorrow morning. This is so people are going to hear
Oh,
this day of the match. Yeah, this is going to be literally the morning of. This will be airing at noon, and Dan's match will be at 5, so that we
whew.
can speak in real time about it.
Well,
Yeah,
I really hope that all the work that we've done, that you've done with him as well. You were quizzing him last night.
yeah,
I hope
yeah.
it helps.
It's amazing talking to other people who have the trivia brain, right? Like, obviously you have it as well. And the way that you sort of organize and categorize information, we all have these little tricks that we use.
Hmm.
And I do always sort of wonder, like, it seems like the best Schmoedown players are pretty incredible movie trivia people. But I do wonder, like, are there just people out there in the world who just make all of us look like just like little babies when it comes to movie trivia? Probably, right? Their like brains
Oh
work
yeah.
differently.
I mean, I'm really fortunate because I have a photographic memory, so a lot of times the way I structure my studying is specifically orienting things in a particular physical layout, because then I'll remember the image of the layout as long as
Yep.
I've concentrated on it and dedicated the time. But there are people out there that are savants that don't even have to stare at things in order to just digest them and understand them. And people that are like better autodidacts than I am, that they just read something, they completely understand how it works. They don't need to be shown or touch anything. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that we might just look like absolute kindergartners compared to some people, but it's nice though that there's a community of people that do like this stuff and that work hard at it. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I would think there's a lot of people that are very good, but I mean, a lot of the best players are getting close to pitching perfect games, so it's like they can't be that much better, right? It's like, I mean, there's they couldn't make us look that childish. Plus,
No,
there's
but
the sort of sports aspect to it.
it's fun to think about, though. The idea of what if we just found some crazy ringer, some actual like ringer, not some character that Christian got
Yeah,
on at the
yeah.
end. But yeah, I would love to see that someday. Just see us all get decimated by somebody just for fun.
Yeah, so were you always super 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 into movies? Like even when you and Dan met before you guys met, were you always kind of a maniac with movies?
Oh yeah. I mean, I had space in my locker on deployment for all of my movies because I had to bring them with me, at
Yeah,
least
yeah,
as many as I
DVDs,
could.
right?
I had to take them out of their cases and put them in those big leather
Yes.
things for deployment because there just wasn't enough room. Uh, but yeah, I think movies really helped me relate to other people because I I wasn't as easy to socialize with when I was younger. I've gotten a lot better. I've had a lot of socialization therapy as a younger person to try to help. So, yeah, I think that I could look at how people felt in situations in movies and it would help me understand and process how I would be likely to feel in a way and how to
Hmm.
interact with people in a way that isn't off-putting, that's comforting and that's open and welcoming and happy. So I digested a lot of media in order to try to cultivate myself to be a more approachable person.
Would you describe yourself in general as awkward? Do you think that's like or do you think is that the word you're looking for? I don't know. I was trying to figure out when you said like off-putting socially, what the word you would describe.
I think a little bit. I was a child to older parents, and my biological sister is on the spectrum. So
Okay.
there's, I influence on me and how I get along with people because she was the person that I looked up to, so to speak, because she was older. Uh, sometimes, especially back then, like it was the late '80s, early '90s, people weren't quite as sorry, that was my phone in tune with how to help people like that to be thing that people understood. Like most people didn't really understand the really finer points of autism and Asperger's. So,
Right.
just kind of how that impresses upon you, how you act and how you behave to try to make sure that I did the best I could to not make other people uncomfortable.
Now, you were in the Navy, is that correct?
That is, I did it.
So, and how old were you when you joined?
I joined at 18. I had done some school after high school, but I very quickly realized that I had zero interest in engineering whatsoever. Was not my thing, not my
Yeah.
area of expertise, but uh I came to realize that apparently I had an aptitude for it that I didn't know I had, and I thought free school, um get away even more so than going to college, like literally be out of the country. I thought it was really appealing, and just the idea that it did have a certain amount of family prestige because my grandfather was in World War II in the Navy.
Oh, amazing.
So, yeah, so I just kind of pulled the trigger and went, and I'm so glad that I did because it turns out nuclear engineering is pretty awesome.
Did you find that that when you joined socially, was it like a different type of relating and interacting than you were used to in high school? Different sort of class of people, or just you were just getting older and it was always sort of different every year anyway?
Oh, it was very different. The Navy is like a microcosm of society that should never ever be looked at by people other than the people inside of it because
Oh, interesting.
you just have to. I mean, like there are days where if something breaks in the plant, you don't have a choice. The ship has to move, so you have to fix it so that way the ship can keep moving and producing electrical power and all of that stuff. So you'll have 36-hour straight days, or you'll have a big exam where bigger ups from the Navy come and examine you and make sure, are you responsible enough to operate this nuclear reactor? We should check. And you'll be up for like 2.5 days, like napping at your desk and then waking up, and then so there's a camaraderie there that's just unmatched, and most of the people there are total dorks just like me, so it was awesome. I finally found my people.
Did you serve with a lot of other women, or was it pretty male dominant?
My field is less than 10% women, usually around 3 to 7%.
Okay.
So yeah, no, not a lot, but fortunately they were also, a lot of them, very tomboyish, so
Sure.
easy to get along with. And Plus, I get along better with guys anyway, just because like I love sports and I don't like things that are pink. And, not to just get into gender stereotypes, but at the same time, it's just easier to relate to people when you have common interests. So it was always cool. I just had my dudes, my bros.
It's so funny you say that thing about the gender stereotypes because one of the gigs I have is I'm the vice president of a toy company, and so a lot of what we do is it's organizing hula hoops and bounce balls and jump ropes and trying to figure out the color patterns and the play patterns that are going to appeal to people in retail. And like you have these conversations with retailers, and it's like, yeah, well, this pink ball is more girl focused, and I feel like in the woke sort of social media world we live in, you can't really say that. That's like not really like that's a girl item. That's a boy item. But the reality is like you buy what you see and you want. And like the patterns of retail are that because that's what's instilled in like the world and all of us. And I think it's funny when we talk about that sort of like the gender stereotype idea of like what is and is not acceptable. It's not a question of what's acceptable. I think it's people have instinct and they follow their instinct. So like
Yeah.
a lot of men are raised to join the military. That's just a sort of a thing that dudes grew up watching other dudes in war movies. So there's probably going to be a lot more guys in the military. That's just probably the way that it'll be for now until it changes, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that eventually I would like to see women have to be required to register for the draft because I 100% support gender equality. And I know that all the women I served with were generally as capable, sometimes more capable than
Yeah.
any of the men were. So let's just throw everybody in the draft. It's all equal.
Yeah, well, I don't want to join the draft, but
Well, you're
you
you're
know,
too old anyway. You don't have to worry about it.
yeah, that's
I
true.
think.
I'm all banged up. I had back surgery. There's no way I couldn't do jack.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you'd get a waiver, you'd be fine. You'd just get to
yeah,
sit at home and collect aluminum or something.
yeah. I'm also clumsy. There's no way they let me carry a gun. That should
Really?
never happen.
You
I'm
carry
so
yourself
clumsy.
so like suavely.
Oh, that's wonderful of you to say. No, I have been accused by many of being like the clumsiest person in the world for many, 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 many years. Roxy Stryer used to say I was like the clumsiest person she'd ever met. So,
Oh, well,
um,
she knows a lot of people, so I should take her very seriously when she said that. So
well, yeah. So that's really really interesting. So you served for how many years? 4,
6.
6 years. Okay. And
Yeah.
so you were 24 when you got out, and where were you? Where did you go live when you got out?
I applied to a lot of different nuclear power plants after I got out. I wasn't sure if I was going to stay in or not, so I was kind of hedging my bets. And I ended up getting a job offer that I just could not refuse at the Grand Gulf Nuclear Power Station in Port Gibson, Mississippi, which you've never heard of it because it's in the middle of nowhere, and it's actually somewhat of a important power station because for a long time it was the largest boiling water reactor in, I believe, the entire Western Hemisphere.
Wow.
So I was really happy when I worked there. Generally, you have some great people, some not great people, but the training there was incredible because I worked on pressurized water reactors in the military, and then I got to learn how to work on a boiling water reactor, and they're way cooler. So it was fun.
What I don't know the difference between a. Can you tell me the difference?
Yes. Actually, I was a nuclear instructor, so this is literally what I used to do. Um, so, in a pressurized water reactor, your nuclear fuel, it's obviously there's water to help keep it cool, and the water that is contaminated because it touches the fuel, it
Yeah.
goes into a heat exchanger and it touches tubes that have cold water in them, and it heats up that water. That water is what turns the turbine to make the power and move the ship and turn the propeller. So it's not the contaminated water, it's other water. In a boiling water reactor, it's the exact opposite. The water that is touching the fuel, it gets vaporized in the reactor vessel, it turns to steam, and then it goes through all these other things, turns a turbine and a turbine generator to make electricity. So that way we can watch Disney Plus.
Wow. So like, and the need for a nuclear reactor to power these ships is because they're so massive. So you need something of an enormous power source to power the ship. Is that the idea?
Yes, yeah, you have to power not only the ship as far as propulsion, but electrical power needs, so like lights and ovens to cook and the defense systems and the aggressive systems if necessary. All of that stuff comes from ship's power, which is from the reactors in a normal situation. Now, when we pull into port, we can connect to shore power. So you just kind of like
Yeah.
plug it in like an extension cord, so to speak. Or there are backup diesel generators, but they're only, for an emergency. So hopefully we never
Right.
have to use them. Plus, sometimes they don't
Wild.
turn on when they're supposed to.
Do you enjoy watching, like when you get to watch like military movies on boats on submarines, like Crimson Tide and movies like that? Does like that totally get you going, or
Yeah, well, K-19 is one that
you're a
I
fan of
mean,
that
it's
one?
hard
Okay.
to watch because it's a sad, sad, sad story. But
Yeah.
yeah, the things that accurately depict nuclear situations like Chernobyl, one of the
Yeah.
best ways to illustrate that to a layman and understand its gravity without typifying it as villainous just by its nature. So yeah,
Yeah.
I gobble it up. And then I get mad at movies like which one is the one? Is it Live Free or Die Hard, the one where they go to Russia, or is that A Good Day to Die Hard? I
I
forget.
think Live for Year is the '07 one. So I think A Good
Okay.
Day to Die Hard is the Russia one.
Yeah, like when they're going around with an iPad and they're like, "Oh, look, my iPad is a Geiger counter and I'm going to spray something in the air to neutralize the radiation." Like that stuff just gets me so worked up because it's so dumb.
I adore those types of movies. The not the Geiger counter ones. The ones that are the boat movies.
Mhm.
K-19 fits into this very very specific class of movie for me though. And there's a lot of these that though in the last 10 years of my life where like so there's a level of drunkenness that happens and you turn on the last movie of the night, and often you finish the movie, but sometimes you don't. And often the ones you don't finish, you just don't ever go back to rewatch. So you have these little fragmented memories of what you watched. I
Mhm.
think I watched all of K-19. I'm pretty sure I did because that movie was like important in my mind because it's Catherine Bigelow and I love Catherine Bigelow and it's like Harrison Ford trying to do a Russian accent, which like I don't know. I'm pretty sure Liam Neeson's in there somewhere, uh, and I think like that's about where the memory cuts off. So but yeah, it's like there's definitely a lot of movies like that. And the funny thing is because I like the action adventure thriller genre so much, there's so many parallels in so many of those movies that they start to get mixed up. I'm like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, there was like some hand-to-hand combat in that one, right? I was like, oh, that's Under Siege. That's definitely Under Siege, you know.
I mean, I
So,
love all the boat movies. I even like Battleship, as dumb as it is, just
oh,
because,
I never watched that
Navy
one.
stuff. But like U-571, I love that. You mentioned Crimson Tide.
Yeah,
Oh man, I'm forgetting. Oh, um, it's on the
Hunt
tip
for
of
Red
my tongue.
October.
It's the movie that is most like my time in the Navy. Um, it's the one with Kelsey Grammer and
Oh,
uh,
wait,
why can't I think of it?
it's a comedy or it's a drama?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What?
Down
Down
Periscope.
Periscope.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I was gonna say.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that movie is if you watch that, that is exactly like what my Navy experience was, as far as like the joking and the interacting and the not taking things seriously, even though they're very serious.
Yeah,
Most accurate Navy movie ever made.
that's hilarious. Yeah, I'm a big fan of those movies. I think probably of all the ones we just mentioned, my favorite has to be Crimson Tide. I like adore Crimson Tide. It's got like so many things that I like. It's got like young Denzel. It's got
Oh
sweaty
yeah.
Vigo. There's a lot of things in that movie I like.
Oh yeah.
But
I
yeah,
love a
yeah,
good hidden Vigo, like in Daylight when he's like
yeah,
the
yeah.
rock
Right.
climber
He's
guy.
he's the rock climber. Yeah, he's like the
Yeah.
billionaire guy. Yeah, that's sweet. I love Vigo. So where did your love of movies come from? That's actually a question that comes from one of our patrons here in the Nerd Network. What we do here on the Nerd Network, we do a tie straighten as opposed to a salute.
Ah.
So yeah, John Lestrina, who's a general in the Action Army, so he also gets a salute. But then in the Nerds and Suits Patreon, he is a certified diamond nerd. So tie straight into you. And his question is, where does your
Ooh.
love of horror movies come from? Actually, is what he wants to know.
Oh man. I mean, I can't remember exactly if it was the very first one, but I mean, I know it's more of a thriller, so to speak. But at an age that was just incredibly inappropriate, I watched The Silence of the Lambs,
Oh yeah,
and I just, I know it sounds weird. I'm a sort of effervescent person. I try to have energy and think positively, but I'm a dark, dark, dark person. And I was a dark child. I was like Wednesday Adams, and I even had the pigtails, except I was brown instead of like super pale. But
yeah.
I just latched onto the darkness of that movie, and then so I went and I found like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and then Scream was coming out, in the 90s. So I
Yeah.
just started gobbling it up, and I've seen. I mean, I bet if I count, it's definitely at least 1,000 horror movies. There's no way it's
Holy.
not because I'll watch the B ones, I'll watch the Netflix ones that get buried in the back of the queue. I love horror movies. They get your heart pumping and you feel so much you're invested in them even if you don't want to be. And I think I
What
like
was the
that.
last time? What was the last time you watched Silence of the Lambs?
Ooh, it's actually I think it's been probably a couple of years, but I mean, I know that movie backwards and forwards. So, and October's coming up. So every year, Dan and I watch at least one horror movie every single day. So we do hashtag 31 days of Halloween, and
Oh,
that's
that's fun.
definitely going to make the list this year.
Well, believe it or not, out of pure coincidence, for the action industry's patrons, we're doing a watch along of that movie tonight.
Are you
We're actually
really?
doing it at 7. We're doing Silence of the Lambs, so I'll send you the link if you want to do the watch along with us.
Oh, I'll
Um,
definitely pop in, dude. That's
yeah,
so cool.
yeah, it's one of the best, one of the absolute best. I finally just recently watched Red Dragon because I loved Manhunter. I always really liked that movie
Oh, me
because
too.
Michael Mann is a favorite of mine, and I liked Hannibal. I remember when it came out, I saw it in theaters with my dad. That's the one thing that we share is Silence of the Lambs. You saw at a really young age. My dad was like so completely void of reason when it came to showing me movies as a child. He just had like zero filter. Like Andrew and I joke about this all the time because he had a single mom and sisters, so he watched all the family movies, all the rom-coms. That was his whole experience growing up, right? So like if like a question will come up about like the Santa Claus or like my best friend's wedding, he's on it. And if a movie comes up for me and it's like a question about like Memento, I'll be like, oh yeah, I definitely saw Memento when I was 12. Or it'll be like, The Siege. I'll be like, oh yeah, my dad took me to see The Siege when I was 10. Like we saw Ronin the night that he told me my parents were getting divorced. I was literally 10. And De
Wow.
Niro's like, he's like pulling a bullet out of his stomach with like tongs. So like I was all about that shit. That was my favorite thing in the world. But I do love Silence of the Lambs, and I found Red Dragon to be so unnecessary when I finally watched it. I saw it like 6 months ago. It seemed like why did they make this movie? Why did he come back and do this?
I honestly don't really know. I mean, part of me just says that if there's enough love for something back before everything was about grabbing cash, that maybe it was just the idea of making more of something that people really loved. Because I mean, he was
Yeah.
probably one of the most uh, people you should absolutely never ever like. But man, I love Hannibal Lecter, and I don't know. I guess they thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, for sure. Well, he's definitely one of the most loved characters in film history. I mean, and I can't wait to watch it again tonight. I think one of the things people forget about that movie is that it's not trying to catch him. It's actually, well, it is, but the main plot of the movie is trying to catch Ted Levine, and he like
Oh yeah,
helps basically.
put the lotion in the basket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good. The voice. Drew and I were like, if we get drunk enough on the thing, maybe we'll just do the Ted Levine voice the entire time.
Oh, that'd be
Um,
great.
yeah, it's
I
probably pretty
just cherish
uncomfortable for
that
everyone
movie
involved.
because it's one of the I think it's the last movie that honored a pure, as far as like pure horror thriller, not like hybridized. Because I know Black Swan is kind of hybridized, but Academy Award winning acting performances.
Right.
Especially since it came out before the Academy Awards the year before, so it had zero chance. I mean, and before that, it was Misery. Like no one really thinks about these performances. Like I know Dan has said it 1,000 times. I agree. Toni Collette was
Yeah.
absolutely
Yep.
snubbed.
Hereditary. Crazy.
So I mean, Jodie Foster is to be put up on a pedestal because she's like the last one.
Yeah, and she's incredible in the movie. I can't wait to watch it. So a couple other questions here
Oh
from the
sure.
folks in here. This one's from Brianne Chandler, Miss Movies, who's she's
Hi,
Infinity Nerd
Brienne.
in the Nerd Network, and that's a salute to you as a general in the Action Army as well. Brianne wants to know, please share with us something you miss doing since COVID began.
Well, it's kind of interesting because my set of circumstances is a little different just because I, even before COVID, was going through some very serious health issues. So it's kind of a mixture of the two things. But because I can't really do things like hardcore exercising, or I have to do some stuff, but not too much stuff. And so walking was just about the perfect thing, my cardiologist said. And I would go on just long walks. Maybe I had a destination, maybe I didn't. And I'm talking like 8, 10 miles, just depends on the day because uh, it felt good and the endorphins were going. And, it seemed like it was helping, at least minimizing some of the arrhythmia problems I was having. And now I don't really feel quite as comfortable going outside and
Yeah,
walking because I do see a lot of people that, um, for whatever reason, not to get political or ideological, but whether it's a cold or it's COVID, I can't risk getting sick. So I just have to be so much more careful. And so that kind of stinks. I know it sounds
yeah,
real silly just to say walking, but I really liked to do it.
yeah. I was doing a little bit like probably a little less earlier on in quarantine. I go out more these days, and I'll go eat at restaurants, ones I can sit outside, but it's like I
Mhm.
end up sitting by myself with a mask on. And it's like I sort of have to realize that if I'm going to do that, then I have to be kind of just comfortable not being within 6 feet of anyone.
Mhm.
It's like, for instance, I was doing 3 broadcasts a week with Andrew Guy sitting right here for a long
Yeah.
time. I mean, we haven't done a broadcast sitting next to each other in 6 months. We do everything over Zoom, just because it's like the only way you can really guarantee seeing people is if you just see like one person, and it's hyper careful, which I'm just kind of losing my mind. So I'm a
I
little
can't
bit
imagine
less
it.
careful for my own safety, living alone. I do try to make sure that I take care of other people. But as far as my own stuff, like I was wiping down groceries when I first got them, like everything, like washing everything, wiping everything down. Now I drink my bottled coffee without wiping it down. So I'm living dangerously.
Well, you could always consider talking to Jen Sturger and adopting or at least fostering an adorable fuzzy creature because I can tell you I have 2 tuxedo cats running around here somewhere and they really, really help. I mean, even if I didn't have Dan, the isolation just feels so much less imposing when you have a furry creature that wants your attention 24/7.
I think the hard thing for me on that is that I do expect that in about 6 months, 8 months, maybe there'll be a level of normalcy that returns to travel and work.
Mm.
And I have to travel for work so much. I'm like on the road like 120,000 miles a year. So I can't really have an animal in my place when I'm gone for like a week or two at a time. So often I feel like it would be pretty unfair unless you just
Oh,
want to come over and take
definitely.
care of you want to dog sit for me every 2 weeks or something like
I
that.
will. But you could always just get a goldfish.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. You could do the goldfish route. I can relate to you with some of the health problems though. I've had an autoimmune disease for a long time. And luckily my autoimmune disease I thought was really horrible, psoriatic arthritis. Turned out it was bad,
Mm.
but that I actually had a herniated disc, which is where my back surgery came from. But that sort of unexplainable sickness that like is just hard to deal with is something I don't exactly know what you have or what the health problems were, but I do know to combat mine for a long time, I took these immunosuppressants where I would
Mm.
inject myself and it would make my immune system a lot weaker, because an overactive immune system that's the definition of what an autoimmune disease for anybody that doesn't know. Basically, your immune system thinks something is wrong, so it's attacking your body at all times, which throws you all out of whack. And it creates lots of inflammation and horrible arthritis for me. So I stopped taking that stuff and I've wanted to go back on it, except I really just don't think I should because I don't want to have a weak immune system right now during COVID. So,
Yeah, that's so tough. I mean, my situation being a little bit different. I know I haven't been quite as open or forthcoming. It's just something I'm not really used to, even though I know people kind of there's a certain small expectation of like for example in January I spent most of January being hospitalized and at the end of December and just out of nowhere to tell people like hey I can't compete in New York because I'm on so many medicines I sleep like 16 hours a day now and I don't know what's going
yeah.
on half the time and it's kind of unfair when you don't give more of that story but I'm becoming a lot more used to the regimen. Like I've gotten so used to taking a million pills a day, I bedazzled my pill
Nice.
case. So, um, but I had some sort of very severe bacterial and viral infection at the end of
Okay.
December. And because of its severity, they were worried I was on the cusp of endocarditis, which is a bacterial infection of your heart. And
Ooh.
I have kidney problems because I had some issues being born a little premature and stuff like that. So my kidneys don't operate at 100% anyway. One of them's kind of a dud. And there was some damage as far as like kidney output, liver output. And I started having these ventricular arrhythmias. And so they don't really know exactly what the cause is. If it's that there's now, I have a heart defect as well from being born a birth defect. So if it's physical, if it's a byproduct of the infection, if it's now my new normal, because some people just have arrhythmias and they live with them. But like I had to have this heart monitor installed for a couple of months, which was really wonky and gross and horrible, and it left all these scars and stuff. But it's not like I wear fancy clothes anyway, so um, no really worries there. But just getting used to the idea of everything had to change, all of the medicines that you have to take, and then they tweak them and they change them, and then stuff changes in your mind. And there were times where I had absolutely no idea what was going on. So the getting sick part was just such a concern, because any little bit of bacteria or a virus would just probably send everything right back to like ground floor levels, where it was getting pretty dangerous. So I've been very lucky, and we're still working very hard. But the good news is, there were some concerns because of some of my white blood cell counts, that there might be something like malignancy somewhere, and that maybe it was just that it had either started to metastasize, or just that my body, because it's weaker, it didn't respond the way someone else's body would. But I did get some great news a couple weeks ago, that I 100% do not have breast cancer. So that is awesome news.
That is awesome. I'm really
It's like
happy
the
to hear
opposite
that.
of the room.
Yeah. So you definitely, all right. So things then are on the upswing on some level.
Yeah, I'm at like a high plateau. I'm
Okay.
transitioning off of one of my really mentally jarring medications. So that's why I'm hoping that my triumphant return to the Schmoedown can hopefully be somewhat imminent. We'll see. We'll see how I do. But right now, my focus is on the Dan Murrell double belted champion train. So we'll see what happens after that.
Well, I'm focused on the Ben Bateman double belted champion train, so we're on opposite sides of that one. But I do
Well,
I do root for your guy, because he's got to defend the belt first for me to even have a shot at him. You know.
see, that's what I mean. You're not a hurdle right now, so it's okay for me to root for Dan. And then, let's just face it, there's going to be a time where you and Dan play each other
Uh,
again, whether you're trying to get the belt from him, or whether or not he's trying to get it back from you again at some point in the future. It's going to happen, and it's going to be a barn burner. So I will not be mad at all if you win, but I'll be slightly happier if Dan wins.
Well, it's funny because I didn't know you or Dan that well, really. I mean, I knew you guys a little bit from the Schmoedown. I started to get to know you
Mhm.
guys a bit. Obviously, Dan's match against Andrew kind of set up a little bit of a barrier for us to become more friendly. But also, like, until the Horsemen, there was less time for us to spend together. And I do really feel like January, I got to know you guys a little better, helping him out and coaching in New York. And then there's just something about that experience of going head to head with someone like we did in Atlanta that I do think I just feel like I'm friends with you guys now after that for some reason. It's like two fighters beat the shit out of each other in the ring, and now we can be friends or something like that. I
Well,
don't
yeah,
know.
it's like Rocky,
Yeah,
so to
kind
speak.
of. Yeah.
I mean, I think in January, though, I don't know if enough credit was given to you, because the prep session that you did once the wheel was seen, that was 100% instrumental to him winning. Like, there's no question about it.
To the
So,
win. Yeah.
oh yeah, like you were essential. And I gotta say, I was totally ready in Atlanta. I was like, Dan lost, but I'm not mad. But it was a really good game, because I
Uh,
100% thought that he didn't know whatever some answer. I think maybe it was his 5 pointer or something, or I can't remember. There was something he didn't know, and I was like, I don't think he knows this, but this was a great game. So I couldn't believe how it shook out. I really thought he was gonna lose.
I hope that we get a chance. I hope that we get a chance to have another one of those. I believe we will. I feel pretty good about it. I think Dan's going to win tomorrow. Today, you guys are hearing this today, so I think he's going to win today, and I believe I'm going to win. So in theory, that rematch is imminent. It's just a shame that it doesn't get to be live again. That it's going
Yeah.
to be one of these digital matches.
I mean, let's be honest, you're definitely gonna win.
Well,
Just don't tell everyone I said that, except that everyone's gonna know I said that, but that's okay.
Well, so all right, so we've talked plenty about Dan and myself, though. But I mean, you talked about your imminent return to the Schmoedown. You had one of the great debuts of all time. I believe you started 5-0 to win the title.
Hmm.
But we just heard Chandru with all his venom talking about how the game has passed Kevin Smets by. Do you think it was? Yeah, it was some. He was dropping some bombs. Do you look at the competition and think you could still hang with the current competition?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that I'm very fortunate to have a large core group of friends that are in the Schmoedown, that are people I could depend on for varying degrees of help, because the way I study is totally different than the way Kevin studies, and different than the way Chandru studies. I imagine. I haven't really talked to him specifically about his study habits, but from what he has said, and even other players like Mike. So I know that you can glean things from other people, and Rachel Cushing, having stepped away from the Schmoedown, that she is the most amazing resource I could ever imagine. And I've been lucky during COVID to have gotten to know her so much better. And she and Sam are like our little couple friends, and we do Zoom dates and stuff. And we get together with Mark Riley and his fiancee Julie. So I think that being able to use the skills of other people to better myself, that not just relying on what I know and what has worked in the past, is probably something that is a little different than the current competition. And I definitely think I can hang, because I think that I did have a lot of good fortune. I also had a lot of skill, but I think that my skill level now has far surpassed what it was back then. So at a minimum, I definitely think that I would give people a great match to watch. But without being overly confident, I 100% absolutely will be touching that belt. It's gonna happen.
Well, I hope that this time it's not a heavy belt immediately after a car crash, because I think that was one of the most painful things to look at in the entire world, was you trying to carry the damn thing with a kink in your back.
I actually just rewatched that little tiny bit last night, because I was maybe doing some opposition research for Dan, and I was watching there was a little clip of it on another video that was lower in the search, and I just couldn't believe that I even tried to do it. I know that Christian really wanted the moment, and I told him I would try as hard as I could. But yeah, breaking a bone in your neck is not wise. Number one, to just go in studio and play a match the day after, when you have to like take your neck brace off in order to
Yeah.
perform. But at the same time, it's such an amazing memory to have, because I really wanted to win, but I didn't know I was going to win.
Yeah, I remember the day that I played really badly injured. I remember that day pretty well. And I remember the previous session I had been in bad shape. I had gone in the previous session, but I wasn't sure of what was going on yet. I couldn't really sit down comfortably. But when I went and played the match against Brendan with the golf club, I couldn't stand up. Like I literally, there was I could stand for about 90 seconds before I had to lie down. It was like that was kind of like the point that I was at. And I think I'd found out 2 days earlier that I had surgery upcoming. So, I remember I had taken so much morphine for like weeks. I was on like a ton of morphine every day because it was in so much pain. And I was like, I have to be clear headed to win this match. So I kicked the morphine for a full day before the match. And I remember going in day of, and like I was just like sweating and just like, I've got to do this. I'm gonna do this. And I went perfect. And I didn't miss a single question. And it's like the greatest memory for me. That's almost the best memory of the entire championship run, is like probably that one day.
I mean, I honestly, I have no idea how you did it. It's a feat of physical dominance and intellectual superiority to be able to do that. It's incredible. I know that people still talk about, Rachel and I playing, because, she was really, really sick. And, I was same thing. I had to just not take any medicine because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do anything. And I've never rewatched it. And I know that at some point I will, but oh, I don't even want to look at myself, because it was the same thing. I had on like sweatpants and like a PBS t-shirt or something. And I was just so uncomfortable. And like, I think when I got up, like the back of the chair, it was like a sweat mark on it.
Yep.
So, I mean, hey, at least I know you understand it. So in a way, that's another thing just to kind of share with each other, is that we understand the pain, which is terrible.
It's so weird to have something so competitive that so many of us have gone through. Because like, there's only a few people in Schmoedown that I would characterize as having much of an athletic background. Really, there's like a very few of them, I would say. But it is such a sports mentality that a lot of us have lived through. And it is super, super interesting to think like this is the exact same level of emotion and feeling that every athlete feels. It's less endorphins because they're getting to sweat, but it's the same thing of putting yourself into something and preparing and knowing you're going to win. And sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. And those huge highs and those incredibly low lows. Do you have, I would imagine I know the answer to this question, but do you have a day, one of Dan's that you remember, like it was the lowest low?
Well, I think that I know this sounds kind of weird, because it's probably not what you would think it is. It's not the match with Andrew.
That's what I would have expected.
It was actually the day of the free for all, when that kind of rivalry thing first started storyline wise, because just shortly before then, a few days before, Dan's uncle had passed away, and that was like his father figure, because he was raised by a single mother, and it hit him incredibly hard. It was the first significant like member of his family that passed away. So he was very, very torn up, and he wanted to go to free for all, obviously, but that was the exact day of the funeral. And he didn't know that that bit was going to happen. So that, I think, hit us both pretty hard because it was very unexpected. We weren't given a heads up. And so, to be like at the funeral and have like, Twitter traffic and stuff coming in where it's just like,
Right.
I'm the guy that killed Dan Murrell, something, something, something. And that's not Andrew's fault. Not at all. I'm not even
Yeah, of
blaming
course. He had no
Christian. It's
idea.
just
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
confluence of events, that him just already being in such a place of deep and profound grief, that any little thing was going to make it even worse. So I think that was actually the part where my empathy for him was just, I felt heartbroken for him, just the whole situation. But I think that was the lowest low that comes to mind right away. Because in a
What
way,
about
the match with Andrew kind of fueled him to do what he ended up doing after that. So it was not pleasant at the time, but I mean, he and Andrew are great now. It's
Yeah,
for
yeah.
people that don't know, like they get along splendidly. Andrew was so incredibly nice to me from the moment that we first met. So we love him. He's a great guy, and he helped propel him intellectually and emotionally to say like, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna be really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Andrew is the greatest character that the league's ever seen for the reason exactly what you're talking about. The actual person that you spend time with is there's not a trace really of that character in him. There's traces of that character if he gets agitated, like if he's angry in real life, like if he's
Mm-hmm.
mad at you, you'll feel it. But when you're just meeting him as a person, it's the same from every fan that you ever talk to. They're always like, I'm like floored. Like, how is it? How is this person such a nice person? Which is obviously why he's like my best friend, because I think I would hate the guy if he was actually the dastardly character. It would be a miserable person to be around.
Well, hey, I mean, the guy's an actor, so at least he's demonstrating his aptitude out there for casting people. You watch
Yeah,
him.
exactly. Well, so if that's the one that you can point to with Dan, I would imagine the one for you is the day that you lost the title. Is that correct?
Well, sort of. I actually think that the thing that was the turning point for me Schmoedown wise was actually my match with Rachel. Not because of anything having to do with Rachel, but it was the time when the Schmoedown stopped being fun. Like it was all
Yeah,
about
right.
like my promise to Dan and to Christian was, hey, I just want to do it and have fun. And then if it stops being fun, then I'm probably not going to come back next season or something or whatever. Because I didn't expect to have a championship run. I just thought I'd play a few matches, and then, back when they were still doing kind of like themed matches, that maybe I would do something like horror match or something like that. So
Yeah.
I just thought it was going to be fun. And when I realized that there was just going to be this complication of sort of not really having a choice, but to have to keep going and competing when I really just wasn't feeling it, mentally, emotionally, physically, it sort of started to turn the wheel backwards on this just being something really cool and really fun, a great way to interact with people and to get to know people in a different way. Because everyone was always incredibly polite and kind to me. I'd never had a bad experience, but I think I was always kind of looked at just subconsciously as Dan's partner. And
Right.
I wasn't looked at as just being who I was. So it finally allowed people to see me as an individual that's mutually exclusive from him as just a human being. And so it kind of even took some of that away because I wasn't able to really come to just watch matches anymore or support people, my friends, because I was just housebound and sick. And yeah, losing to Mike was really, really tough, but the losing part wasn't really the problem because I know how bad he wanted it. Like he wanted that belt
Yeah.
so bad, and I would have been incredibly delighted to hand it to him. But there were just a lot of things that complicated that, and uh, I was not assertive enough to maintain the boundaries that I had set. And so when people cross them, it's not always their fault. Sometimes it's my fault because I'm a people pleaser. So when I finally hit my breaking point, it was loud and it was uncomfortable and people didn't understand it. But the great thing about it is that I have moved on from it so much. And I would really like to hope that at some point, maybe on his end that we could, try to get back to where we were, is just being really great people that like to compete against each other and have a good rapport. So there's no ill will on my end about Mike whatsoever.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I know you've talked about it. He's talked about it publicly a little bit, and I think you were on backstage at one point. We all kind of talked about it a little bit. So I imagine, given time, that probably will happen. So you are genuinely excited to come back, though, even though now the league has morphed from what you talked about then to it's just full character and team and emotion now. I feel like it's that semblance of that thing that used to exist. I feel like is pretty much just totally gone. You almost can't really do it that way anymore because when you look at like Bonnie Somerville today, her match aired, and like she just has no idea what she's doing out there. She doesn't know how to play the game. She's asking questions about multiple choice, and she's missing her. And it's like you're watching, and you're like, this just you can't have like friends in the league who just want to do this for fun because it's the rookie who's never played before is just crushing every single moment, getting every answer right. Like they're managing the clock, the promos are on point because it's a sport now, right? Like that's sort of what's required.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, though, in a way that is something that can allow me to still maintain a level of distinction because, I'm just going to go out there as just do what I was doing before, which is just like say whatever pops in my head, and people generally like it or laugh at it or laugh at me. And I'm totally cool with it because I laugh at myself all the time. And being a little bit different than the other competitors in that way allows me to maintain that sense of individuality and to be a little bit different and maybe to just recapture some of what was super, super fun about the Schmoedown, especially Inner Geekdom. So you never know. Maybe we can get some of that back. I know at the beginning of the season, all of the champions had gotten together and just said like, hey, let's make next season like super fun. And then there was a global pandemic, and then, stuff happened. But
everything.
maybe next season.
Would you ever take a shot at singles or teams? Would you ever try to go into the regular stuff?
I just think that I would not be very good.
I mean, you've seen a lot of movies, and obviously you helped Dan, so like you by osmosis, you must pick up a lot.
I do. I mean, I play along. But where it comes into things is I do have a lot of blind spots. Like I've only seen one Martin Scorsese movie, I think,
That's
ever.
fair.
So, that
Which
is
one?
just like criminal as far as the Schmoedown goes. Stuff like that. And then when I was in the military, I missed a lot of movies for 6 years. And, you can play catch up. And if I were going to do it without being an Inner Geekdom, I think I could hang for a little while. But I think I would only disappoint people and disappoint myself. Oh, the Roomba's going. Hold on.
Definitely not cutting this out. There's no way we're cutting that one. That's staying in for sure.
Oh, Dan's got it. Dan's got the Roomba. Although I have the remote and it's not working. All right. So, but I think that the one league that I would consider, though, is I was playing along with the Star Wars League this year. And not having specifically said, I'm going to look at every Star Wars thing with the most microscopic lens and find every little thing, I did pretty well. So I wouldn't put it out of the question that next season, maybe I throw my hat into Star Wars because...
Take a run at it?
Yeah. Plus, hey, I'd be the first person that would ever have had the Star Wars belt and the Inner Geekdom belt. So that could be fun.
Yeah, I mean, because Alex Damon tried to do it this year the other way around. I contend, I've said this on a couple shows before, and I've gotten raked over the coals for it, that I think I could learn all of Star Wars and win the title in 60 days. I think in 2 months, if I committed fully to it, I believe I could do it. Now, I've been told by all of the Star Wars competitors that that's ludicrous and the most asinine thing they've ever heard because they all spend those months leading up to the tournament doing exactly that, and they're all experts anyway. And who am I? I've just seen all the movies once or twice. I mean, I've seen the classics a bunch, but like, I just think that there's I could come up with a structure and a system. I think I could gamify it for myself in a way that I could do it. That's what I think.
I mean, I've seen you Moneyball singles. I don't see why you couldn't do it for Star Wars, especially if, I mean, in the age of COVID, where unfortunately there is not a lot of else going on. If you had a match 60 days from now, I think that at a minimum, it'd come down to the final round, last question, whether you won or you lost. So I think it's doable. So I'm going to put my flag in Camp Bateman for this.
Well, I get to coast on the goodwill right now of people, everybody saying that I'm like this great strategist, and then I'll lose a couple big matches. I'll lose a couple big matches, and then people are like, oh, maybe he was a little overrated, and then it's all about the legacy. So I gotta keep winning, because if I don't, then I'll just be the guy that won a title one time. So I have a couple last questions here from people. Aaron Hutchinson here says, I heard your bird calls on Roxy stream a while ago, and was wondering if you practice doing new calls or if you play an instrument. Aaron Hutchinson, thank you.
I haven't done any new bird noises recently that I know of. I'm working on a cat noise that's really weird. It's like something I do in the back of my throat that sounds like when cats just like growl and they, get up and they get all fluffy. But I do play several instruments, so that might be more interesting. I will quack at the end though, just for fun. I play the trombone, the French horn, the violin, viola, cello. I have played the clarinet and the flute. They're not my favorites. I do enjoy playing the bassoon. Saxophone, I was just never great. Just never great at it.
Yeah.
I played the trumpet / cornet, a baritone, which is basically kind of like a trombone except with valves, or like a euphonium more so. And then I did winter percussion. So I played the marimba, and I did some tenor drums, some quads, a little bit. I feel like I'm missing something, but I don't think I am. My parents put me in music lessons when I was like 3 years old. So I'm a very, very small, like bottom level musical prodigy. So I can play pretty much anything. I can read all the musical charts in different keys. And so like I know bass clef, alto clef, treble clef. I don't know how to play the guitar though. So Brianne Chandler is like my hero because she's been teaching herself how to play guitar.
Yeah, guitar's that's the one. I mean, I sing and play guitar and a little piano. Those are the ones I do. So I don't do any of the wind instruments. But it's like a whole different school. It's like I can't read music either. So you got me crushed on that one.
I will also quack for you. It's going to be horrible, but
oh yeah, please.
Actually, I need more water.
Wow! Whoa! That's like real. I thought you were gonna be like quack quack, and I was gonna be like, oh yeah, this is cool.
I also I did it on Roxy's show too, but I also do a really great Lois Griffin. I don't know if you got to hear it.
No, please.
Oh, Peter!
Wow, that's some skill right there. So are your bird calls
impressions?
Do you have any bird calls on hand, or you haven't been doing them?
I mean, I can do kind of like a dove noise, like a. It's
wow.
Yeah. I'm getting better. I'm working because there are birds on my balcony, and my cats like to try to charge at the glass and try to break it and get the birds. So I should probably get better at my bird calls, so that way I can get like the biggest, baddest birds for my cats to think that they can hunt.
Wow, that's some pretty impressive skills. I gotta say, not what I was expecting. Our last one here is from Tyler Schwent, who is once again a certified diamond nerd in the Nerd Network. Ooh. Salute to you as a general in the Action Army as well. Tie straight in there for you, Tyler. Call sign Bear Trap. What are your favorite moments you've had between Schmoedown and behind the scenes for Dan's channel?
Oh man, well I gotta say, just everything with Dan's channel has been so incredible because, even him just not being Dan Murrell, let's just say he's a person. Him choosing to like trust that I can help with the channel, that I can be a partner with him, not just a person that sits in the living room while he does all of his stuff in the office in the studio. It's just great that we collaborate so well that, we've had some ideas of mine that I've tried that have been okay or good or great. And we collaborate well. We write together. I help do a lot of the math for his charts show because Dan's not good at maths. But yeah, it's been wonderful experience to work with your partner, because it's always kind of nice in a way that doesn't have like an inappropriate context to it, like having someone be a supervisor or a subordinate, but just being able to be a partner in something with your partner. It's a really, really great feeling because I feel like I get to share in his success more than just from a distance. And as far as Schmoedown goes, I was really sad that pandemic happened because I was having so much fun with all of my where am I hiding little scenes, because I can fit anywhere. We were going to do something where I dropped down from the ceiling at one point because I can just scale walls and stuff. And, I can hide in a washing machine. I can fit in most overhead compartments. Like I'm really limber. So, and I'm only 110 pounds. So I'm like pretty small. And I just wanted to squeeze myself in all these places and just terrify people, because I wanted people to know I could be anywhere and everywhere. So I was disappointed that we had to stop.
You're flexible. You can just like sort of contort your body to like get into tiny places.
I can dislocate my own jaw a little bit. It's really weird.
Wild. Yeah. I definitely cannot hide places. I like can barely bend from the lower back. So you got me
really
crushed
tall
there.
Too.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to have gotten to talk to you and get to know you a little bit better. I think your history and story, kind of getting into Schmoedown, getting into movies, is amazing. The one thing I did want to ask, and I should have asked it earlier in the stream, but I'll ask it now. How did you and Dan meet? What was the story there?
So it was at Wizard World, New Orleans. I was living in Mississippi for work, and my friend Dean and I decided that we really wanted to go to Wizard World because I forget, there was like a panel or something he really wanted to go to. And I wanted to go to the Screen Junkies panel because they were doing a screening of Captain America, the Winter Soldier with the Russo brothers, doing like a live commentary with it. And that is, I think, overall still my favorite Marvel movie, MCU movie, even after all of them are finished. But a mutual friend thought, basically Spencer J. Gilbert, because he's awesome, and I don't think he would mind if I use his name, thought that maybe Dan and I would get along and that we would mesh. And we did. We sat on a granite bench outside of Tiffany's and talked about Star Trek The Next Generation for about 4 solid hours.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was funny. I was sharing a room with a friend of mine who had a swim meet slightly outside of New Orleans, like on Sunday. And so this was on a Friday night. And, I get home and she's just like, "Why are your hands so cold?" And it's like, well, because I was sitting outside for like 4 hours and it was cold in January. But no, we bonded just so quickly over really similar experiences. I think when you love Star Trek at a young age, the bullying that you get, like the merciless bullying, really bonds you to someone else when they can understand what that's like. And we just kept talking and kept in touch. And after a little while, I was like, "Hey, I love LA. I used to fly out to LA for a day just to go shopping and then go home. So why don't I fly out to LA and we can just like hang out and see, are we friends? Are we going to be more than friends?" And it's been over 4.5 years now. So I would say that it worked out really well.
You guys are definitely more than friends. It seems that way to me.
Well, I think that I think we've got a long future ahead of us.
Aww.
Also, I have a tease for you, Ben Bateman.
Please.
I had to do a practice run just to make sure that everything was going to go well. So I practiced today.
Oh, that looks good.
Oh, it was really good.
Mara is a baker. You're a baker. I'm talking to the audience now, and has generously offered to make me some cookies. And I love chocolate chip cookies, like with all my heart. So I'm hoping to have them this weekend, and I can't wait.
Oh, you will.
I can't fucking wait. I love cookies so much. I think it's probably my favorite of all desserts. I think like chocolate chip cookies and like really decadent chocolate cakes both occupy like a similar space. But I think chocolate chip cookies, just by and large, are always going to be my favorite. I'm like kind of a bit of a connoisseur. I like love them. I know all the best ones in LA. I could like list them for you. They're incredible.
Well, I hope my cookies can hang, because I think I really nailed down, because like I love cooking because there's so much chemistry, do you melt your butter first? Do you just leave it room temperature soft? Do you use your eggs at room temperature? Do you use an extra yolk? Do you not? Do you use cornstarch? Do you use baking soda and baking powder, or just one or the other? Like there's so much that goes into how the chemical reactions make cookies either thicker or thinner, crispier, softer, gooier, what color they are, how much brown sugar to white sugar do you put in for the color and the caramelization. So I like it because I've tweaked it and I think I really got it. So I hope that my cookies can hang.
I'm so excited. I'm seriously so friggin' excited. I wanted to go here for a second because I think I actually did exactly the same thing when I was talking to Dan when he was on the show. But so when I was getting ready to play Polyama last year, there was a rule at the time that is coming back apparently, but at the time you could request Intergeekdom slices on the wheel, and he had done it to Snyder. He had put on Harry Potter on the wheel, and I had seen all the Harry Potter movies one time each leading up to the release of the last one, but that had been almost 10 years, and I didn't remember much about him. And I had never seen any Star Trek movie other than Wrath of Khan and '09. And so this is how much of a psycho I am. I've told the story before, but I watched every Harry Potter movie and every Star Trek movie secretly. I watched them all, and I didn't speak about it on any show. I told Andrew, but I was like, you can't talk about this on air. So I openly on air would periodically drop things like, I've only ever seen Wrath of Khan in '09. Like, and I was like hoping, I was like trying to bait Paul. And this one day Paul sent me a message like a week before, and he's like, if you think I'm dumb enough to fall for what you're doing, it'll never work. And like, he just like fully, because Paul's like a genius with stuff like that. He like really picks up on that stuff. And then going into this year, Christian was like, yeah, you can't do that slice anymore. It's just an Intergeekdom slice. I was like, what a waste of, come on. Like I never got to work. So now I talk about it openly, but I watched all the Star Trek movies in a very short sequence. And my experience, because you're a big Trekkie fan, so I'll kind of tell you, like, so I hated the first ones at first because Star Trek, the motion picture is a tough watch.
It's slow.
It's tough. Wrath of Khan I had seen, and I remembered the worms in the ear thing as a kid. And it was cool, but there's a particular part of the 80s that I hate with a passion. And that movie is it. Like, it's the Road Warrior. It's that stuff that is so distinctly from that era in the 80s that it's trying to look like post-apocalyptic or like way in the future, but it actually just, the feathered hair and everything, it just looks like that part of the 80s.
Oh yeah.
And it can't escape. So it's like sweet, but like, wasn't for me all the way. And then 3 was, it's okay. But 4 is great. And 4 is when I started to get fully on board with Star Trek. And from 4 on, I would say that I'm like a pretty big fan. I even like the bad ones. Like, my favorite Star Trek movie might actually be Generations, which I know is a ridiculous thing to say.
That movie. That's not a bad movie at all.
I like kind of loved it. Like, I love the stuff at the beginning when they're on the bridge and Alan Ruck is like, I'll go. And he's like, no, the captain's place is here on the bridge. I'll go. And I was like, Elder Statesman Kirk, you're my guy. Like, I was all about it.
I just love that was a brilliant send off for, the character of Captain Kirk, because I actually think, even though people criticize like, the Shatnerization of the death, but just that, it's almost so subdued for Shatner that's what makes it so great. But just him saying like, oh, why? And then just dying.
It was fun.
Yeah, just so good. I really like that movie. So yeah, you never know. This knowledge could be great. Maybe eventually they'll redo like a Harry Potter exhibition, or I really, really want to do a Star Trek exhibition. I just was not in the physical condition to be able to do the one that they were doing, because I was like exhausted at that point of the year. So granted, it was over 2 years ago now, but still, I hated having to say no when Christian asked if I wanted to do it. So maybe it can come in handy again. Maybe we can play each other. That would be fun, because I don't know how else that would ever happen.
Well, maybe you'll get into singles and teams. Maybe you'll surprise yourself. I wouldn't put it past you. Or maybe we'll be the 2 rookies. Maybe we'll be the 2 Star Wars rookies next year, and we'll end up matching up in the finals or something like that.
Dude, that would be awesome. I say that's a plan. Or maybe it's better for me if you don't do Star Wars, and then I can just enlist you and hire you to train me. So that way I don't have to worry about competing against you.
It'd be like a whole thing. I sometimes wonder if I over strategize and come up with things that don't really work. But I mean, you have to try them to see if they work in the first place. So anyway, I'm excited to see your return. I'm really excited to see what you do when you come back. I'm hoping that it's soon. And I know the fans are excited for that as well. So a big time thank you for doing the episode today, guys. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, please do. Leave a comment. Comments mean the world to the algorithm on YouTube. They actually really go a long way to make these videos succeed. And of course, check out patreon.com/nerdsandsuits if you guys want to be a part of this. You want to be able to ask questions for guests or any of the fun stuff. Mara, is there anything that you're doing or working on you'd like people to know about, where they can find you, any of that stuff?
People can find me on Twitter. I'm at @thatmara, because we decided to make something that was much easier to say, even though my really cool electrical engineering pun was always cherished. I'm also on Instagram.
What was it again?
It was @ouch and then _this and then a capital MHZ, because in electrical terms that means megahertz. So ouch, this megahertz. So I'm also on Instagram. I'm finally learning how to do Instagram, so forgive me because right now it's terrible, but I'm at that Mara LA because there's some other Mara out there that's that Mara. I'm also occasionally featured on Dan's YouTube channel, youtube.com/Dan Murrell Movies. I'm also behind the scenes quite a bit. If you ever want to check out Dan Murrell on Patreon, patreon.com/Dan Murrell. And yeah, occasionally I appear on some of my friends' broadcasts. So I really want to thank you, Ben Bateman, for asking me to join you today. And I want to thank all of your fans for tuning in and hopefully enjoying this conversation. Please leave some comments. I'd love to engage with people, see what you guys thought, get into some really fantastic, silly debates because I love, by the way, I love silly questions. So if I ever come back, please ask me dumb questions.
Will do. Guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Mara. And that about wraps us up, guys. Thank you so much for watching another episode of A Great Conversation. I love doing this show, and it's so much fun to get to know my friends a little bit better. Mara was terrific today and had so many great things to say. So a big time thank you to all of you guys, all the Platinum patrons and above that submitted your questions for Mara. Remember, guys, leave a comment below. It means everything. It really does help the growth of this channel. You have no idea what a comment actually means to this video and the way that it performs. So thank you so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, hit subscribe, and of course, check out patreon.com/Nerds in Suits. We have great fun stuff going on there as well. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and tune in today at 5 p.m. to watch the title match, the crazy title match between Dan Murrell and Ethan Irwin. Normally, I probably wouldn't take the Nerds in Suits platform to promote a Schmoedown match because these things live on forever, but it's just so exciting that if you're watching today, I need you guys to watch it because I'm just so excited to watch my faction mate and friend Dan Murrell compete. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and I will see you on the very next episode of A Great Conversation.